I've got the infeed table back off the jointer after having it all put together because what I was trying to do was just basically fine tune it, and the first thing I wanted to do was get the beds aligned, the infeed and the outfeed beds aligned with each other. But I came across a major problem when I started doing that, and that is that this infeed bed is actually warped quite a lot at the cutter head end, and I'll try and illustrate that with my rule. If I put my rule there, now you can see that that's pretty much dead flat as you would want it to be. But if we move up to this end, I'll just put the camera down. If we move up to this end and I put that ruler on there, as you can see it's high in the middle and down quite a bit on both sides. Now I don't know what that's caused by, because if you have a look at the bed here, you can see the original machining marks on the bed. So it's not worn out there, but they do disappear once you get up here. They're not there at all. So I don't know if the bed's worn out, but anyway, what I do know is that that has to be fixed somehow. And what I ended up doing to fix that infeed table was I actually sent it away and had it milled. So as you can see there, it's been milled perfectly flat. Absolutely looks like brand new. I was very fortunate to be able to call on my brother to do that for me, so a huge thank you to him. What I'm going to do now is basically just give it a rub down with some 800 wet and dry and some WD-40 just to smooth off any of those milling marks, and then get it back on the machine and we'll fine tune the machine. I've got the infeed table back on the machine now, and basically that's in place and adjusted. I've got no shimming at all on the infeed table in that dovetail slider there, because basically because this is the table that's going to be moving up and down, I didn't want to put any shimming in there. What I'm going to attempt to do is just have that sitting as it is, and the idea will be to adjust the outfeed table to match the infeed table, because basically the outfeed table, once it's set, it's really going to move. What I've done to start with, I've got, if you can see that there, I've got my outfeed table and infeed table aligned there, but if I run my ruler across here, there's a bit of a gap there, so that tells me I'm going to need shimming on the front here. But before I shim the front, I'm going to attempt to align the this whole back edge of the outfeed table. So what I do is I'll put a straight edge on that and see how much it's out down that end down there. I'll put a straight edge on the machine now on the infeed table, so it's fixed to that infeed table. Now the straight edge I'm using is a piece of 40mm by 10mm, or I think it's about 1.5" by 3/8 stainless steel square tube. So it is fairly accurate, and it is the straightest thing I have in my whole workshop. So if we have a look at that now, yeah, that's sitting nice and flat along that in-feed table, and it's sitting flat on that front edge of the outfeed table, and then as I come along you'll see it's starting to get a little bit of a gap, and it's going to only require a tiny little bit of shimming down, if you can see that, down on this bottom corner here of the table, and we'll see if we can bring that up. I've added some shims now to the bottom corner of this outfeed table, and all I did was I used aluminium can, strips of aluminium can, which works great as a shim, and that's brought the back edge of the table now perfectly in line with the in-feed table. So now what I'll do is I'll concentrate on that front edge and bring that up. Hopefully when I bring the front edge up it won't affect this back edge too much, but we'll just have to see. I've moved my straight edge now onto the front edge of the in-feed table. So you can see it's sitting nice and flat there. And if I bring it along to here, you can see that's that gap I was talking about. Now just roughly looking at that with my rule, it's about 1.5 millimeters. So I've got to find something that I can put into here that's about 1.5 millimeters and bring that front edge up. Well, I've done all the adjustments on the two beds now, and I've got them pretty much perfect. Just to run through what I did, found these little brackets here. They're 1 millimeter, and they were pretty spot on actually. That one there is sitting in there on its own, and that worked out perfectly. This one here needed a couple of shims. I think I've got two or three shims there, aluminium can shims, and they brought that up perfectly as well. So got those two shims in there, and as I mentioned before, a couple of shims on that back lower corner, and that's brought the two beds here pretty much perfectly in line. So yeah, happy with that. The process of aligning these beds is quite fiddly, I'll have to admit, especially when you've got this type of machine with the dovetail sliders that need to be shimmed rather than having individual cam adjusters or screw adjusters. But yeah, look, it's definitely worth taking the time to get it right. It probably took me about half an hour to get this right, and yeah, that's a good time investment, because once it's done, it's going to stay there for quite a while. I've got the fence back on the machine now, and that's been set back to 90 degrees. So that's done. So that leaves the last thing to do now on the machine is to set the knives. The cutting knives are now going to have to be set to the outfeed table. Now the method that I'm going to use to do that is the magnetic jig method with these homemade magnetic jigs. Now there's a really excellent video by Brian Grella from Garage Woodworks who shows how to make these jigs and use them. I'll post a link to that video down below. It's no use me going over that again when, like I said, you can go and watch that video and it is quite good. So the basic idea behind using these magnetic jigs is, once you've found the top dead center, you line that up directly with the tip of the blade, and then this second one here, that mark there, aligns directly at the center of the magnets underneath. So I line that mark up with the center of the blade as well, and I've loosened off the clamping screw. So now what happens is that magnet draws the blade up to the underside of these blocks, which will put it in perfect alignment with the outfeed table. So if I can just show you there, see, I can push it. So you see that blade's loose and the magnet's drawing it up. So all I'll do now is retighten the clamping screws, and I'll do that for the other two blades. The knives have been set and the guard's back in place, so all we have to do is give it a try.